All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone, welcome. I want to officially welcome you to our Take 30. Get ready for our virtual day of action. My name is Bianca Rogers. I work with CareQuest Institute for Oral Health. So we are here today to prepare for Open's virtual day of action, which will be held 1 week from today, next Wednesday, May 14th. Before we dive into the topic, I just want to go over a couple of housekeeping items. First, want to note that our call is being recorded. We will share out the recording and slides following the event. We will have time for a Q&A at the end of today's event. So if you have any questions, I just ask that you please add it to the Q&A chat box. You can find that at the bottom of your navigation menu in Zoom. If you're not seeing it right away, you can click on More and then go to the Q&A. That just helps keep me organized with the questions that are coming through. So with that, I want to jump in and I'm curious to see. Oh, wait. First, I want to jump in and share a little bit about Open for folks who are newer to Open. Open is an initiative of CareQuest Institute, and it is a group of individuals and organizations who have organized across the US to advocate for affordable and accessible oral health coverage for everyone. We do this as a network through various in-person and virtual meetings that we host, including things like the Day of Action or different work groups on learning, different sorts of oral health topics. And so the idea is to bring folks together so that they can learn from one another and share resources and network with each other. So if you're interested in joining our distribution list, or if you want to find out about any of our upcoming events, you can visit carequest.org/open. So now, before I jump into our topic, we have a quick poll for you to take. So I wanted to get to know, have you ever participated in a virtual day of action before? All right, give folks about a couple more seconds to answer if they haven't had the chance. All right, thank you for those that participated. So it's about half and half, but it seems like for most people, this is going to be their first virtual day of action, which is really exciting. So we'll talk a little bit about what that means, how to prepare, and some of the resources and tools that we have prepared for you to take action. So close out of this. Okay. So the first thing I want to jump into is what we seek to accomplish with a virtual day of action, including our own, is that we want to create a groundswell of support. And by doing this on an organized day where everyone is sending out the same message, we are able to raise awareness on a certain issue or a certain topic. Ultimately, our goal is to influence Congress to take action. And so next, I want to cover what are the issues that we are prioritizing or focusing on this year and for our day of action. So the first is to oppose any Medicaid cuts for those who rely on oral health coverage and medical coverage through the program. The second action is to improve access to dental care for veterans who access their medical care through the VA. And the third is to support the Heads Up Act, which is a bill that would support oral health coverage and healthcare coverage for individuals with disabilities. These are the three priorities that were established by Open members this year. They are issues that the network is supportive of, but also that Congress has influence over and topics that are relevant to Congress during this time in the current time frame. We recently hosted a series of training sessions on each of these three topics. So if you're interested in doing a deeper dive or hearing more background information on each of them, we've put in links here to the recording and slides from those trainings as well. So you can take a look at that following the meeting. So now I want to get into the three ways that you can take action to amplify our issues and raise that awareness, create that groundswell of support. So the first is to email your members of Congress. We have this tool online that automatically emails your two US senators and your House rep. And all you have to do is enter your home address or the address of which you are a constituent. And it generates, the office information for those members of Congress. Our advocacy team put together a template email that you can utilize and also customize. So we encourage you to think about adding information about your own organization, or if you are a provider or clinician, you can speak to your experience in the oral health field. And it's also a great idea to share some additional state context or data to really tailor the message and make it resonate for your members in your state and in your communities. The next way you can take action, of course, another great way to amplify our message or lift up our messages is by posting on social media. So our marketing team has developed a social media toolkit, which includes sample posts, so copy and language that are specific to the three asks and the three issues that we're focusing on this year, as well as graphics that are resized for all the different platforms that you could post on. As you know, messages with photos or images or graphics tend to perform better. So we definitely encourage you to post the graphic along with the message. And then the hashtag that we're using for our day of action is the hashtag Open Hill Day. And then we've included a pro tip here that if you are interested in tagging your legislators directly, you can tag their handles. And so that way, their team will get pinged that you are sending this message. And the last way to take action is through, we're encouraging folks to request a meeting with their members on their own. So what you can do is contact the office of your members of Congress and request a virtual meeting. Or perhaps if you live by a local office, you could also request, if you feel comfortable, to have a meeting at their local office. We have developed a set of background informational one-pagers that you will be able to download and can include to discuss during your meetings, and as well as it can help you think through what your talking points are, what the key messages that you want to raise in these discussions. After you have your member meeting, we do ask that you fill out a form. This is going to help us capture what are the topics that you discussed in your meeting, if they had any follow-up items that our team can help you in getting back to them. If they asked a question that you weren't sure of the answer, we can help in following up on a response to that. And so in this way, we are also able to understand our reach and our impact. So if you do have a virtual meeting, we really hope that you'll let us know about it. And in the next slide, I'll share a couple of tips for how to have a successful meeting with your member office. I also wanted to point out one thing here. So if you've participated in past Open Hill Days, or perhaps you have you've developed a relationship with a member office on your own or through your organization, and you have a contact in that office, I would recommend that you email that contact directly in requesting a meeting. But if you don't have a contact, don't worry. We have some tips for you to find that out, to find out who they are. So, but first, I want to ask you another question through this poll. I wanted to know if you've ever visited your so your legislator's website. So I'll give you a minute or two to answer that. Awesome. Wow. So a majority of you have visited your members website. Well, that's really exciting. And that's really important. I'm going to emphasize that in the next couple of slides here. So I wanted to share a couple of tips for you for your member meetings. The reason I asked about if you visited their website is because researching your member in advance is so important. This is how you find out what policy priorities they have, what issues are top of mind. You can also find out about their values, what their background is, their biography, and this can help you form your message and tailor your message as you're preparing for your meeting. The other reason it's great to visit their website is if you don't have an existing contact in their office, you can you can research their website to find a request a meeting or a contact my office page. And that's where you can fill out a form typically to request the meeting with your member. A couple other tips for successful meeting are before you get into the meeting, you want to prepare your elevator pitch. In most instances, time is limited in these member meetings. So you want to think through what are the top messages, what are the top key talking points that you want to get across in your asks. And alongside that, you want to think of how are you going to share both facts and stories. So when you take a look at the informational one-pagers, you can pull out some of the data points that you think will resonate with the office or that you feel like are make a strong case for the issue. But it's also important to think about your stories or personal experiences that you can lift up and share with the member office. A couple of other things that we like to emphasize when you're meeting with your members is don't be discouraged by unproductive meetings. Not everyone is going to be fully engaged on our topic. If you run into the situation, it's just good to get out your ask and what what you wanted to accomplish in the meeting and thank them for their time. If you feel like the other thing I really want to emphasize is that you don't need to be a policy expert to have a meeting with your member. There is a lot of information about each of our issues, but what I emphasize is talk about why these are issues that are important to you, why they're important to the community that you're serving, and that's a really great message to lean on. Also, another great message to lean on is just emphasize the fact that oral health is overall health. I think that's something that us in the oral health field can speak to very articulately. So that's always a great one to fall back on. But what we definitely don't want you to do is if you're asked a question that you don't know the answer, don't answer it. Just say, you know, that's a great question and we'll follow up and get back to you. So if that happens, you know, share that question back with us and we'll follow up with that member. And then the last tip is don't be late. Certainly, if you're late to your meeting, it's likely that your meeting will not be rescheduled or that they can't accommodate you. So you definitely want to be punctual to a meeting with your member. All right, so just a couple of next steps. Well, actually, really only one next step. So we really hope that you'll participate in our day of action. It's next Wednesday. So as A group of open members are going to be in Washington, D.C., meeting with having Hill visits. You can participate from home in those three ways that we just covered to support the impact that we're trying to make and the issues that we're trying to move forward. I think Francesca is going to help me by putting the link in the chat. So everything I covered today, the letter, the template email, the social media toolkit, the form to fill out after you have your meeting, can be found on this website. We'll also send out an email reminder to you next week so that you know it's time to take action. And then the last thing I'll share is we really hope that not only you will take action, but that you'll share this opportunity with just one other person. That is such an easy and simple way for us to double our impact. So please, share this opportunity with folks in your network or someone that you think would benefit from engaging in this. So with that, I'll turn it over. I'll invite folks to submit their questions. I'll take a look now at the Q&A. Oh, we got a question about the link to the trainings. Jan, I'll email those to you specifically. But I'll do my best. Oh, perfect. Thanks, Francesca. She linked in there the website. Well, as folks are thinking of questions, I do have a couple of closing remarks that I want to emphasize. But if you have any questions, please add them to the Q&A chat box. I don't know, Jasmine, if we want to take down the slides, we can do that as well. Oh, perfect. Okay. Hi, folks. So I wanted to hit home on a couple of points here as we're thinking about our day of action, as you're thinking about meeting with your members of Congress. So one of the areas I wanted to touch on is how do you tailor your message to resonate with different policymakers? So I can't emphasize this enough, but it seems like most of you have already done the research, gone to your legislators' website, which is great, because I really do think that the best way to find out about their values and their priorities and to tailor your messages is by using the same language that you're seeing on their website. So if you see words like, I really value family or faith or, think about using that same sort of language when you're in your meeting, talking to the staffer or the member. The other thing I want to point out is that in some of these offices with different policymakers, you might not necessarily have the same solution. You might not have agreement on what the policy solution is to the issue we're talking about. But that's okay because what you want to focus on is what are some commonalities, what are some ways you can connect with them on the human level. And really what that helps with is building a strong relationship with that office. So maybe you don't agree on solutions for the priority at hand, but maybe in the future you will. So you really want to emphasize having a strong relationship with member offices versus, just thinking about the issue at hand and how you might, have differences of opinion on ways to tackle it. Another kind of go-to tip I have is when you're crafting your message, so whether this is for social media or for when you're meeting with your member, you want to make sure you're crafting a clear message. You want it to be very concise and focused. A good tip is you want to avoid jargon. So, many of these staffers aren't going to have a medical or a dental background. So you definitely want to avoid like any technical terminology that I know we have a lot of abbreviations in the oral health field. So try to stay away from that. And I think you are in for a more productive meeting in that way and more engaging meeting. And then my last tip I want to hit on is um, for a virtual meeting, if you do confirm a virtual meeting with your member, please note that you might need to be very flexible and adaptable to their schedule. They might have to change their, the meeting time, the meeting date. So do your best to try and accommodate that because it is likely to shift. And then if you are meeting virtually, another tip is that you want to make sure you're somewhere with a strong internet connection, and then also somewhere in an environment that's quiet and free of distractions. So that will also support you in having a productive and effective meeting. So that's all I have for you folks. Oh, here we go. I have one question here. Answer live. Okay. One of our questions is, should we always go over all three asks if the legislator has a strong position on one of the issues, such as someone who's nationally known as a veteran? This is a great question. So as you know, your time in your meeting can be limited. So I do think it is a best practice to try and match up, the issues you're talking about with what resonates with that member office. So if they're known to be a member, to be a veteran or to be heavily involved in veterans issues, I would shift your talking points and start with that one first. So start with your top issue first, and then if there's time, talk about the other issues. Um, and another point I'll add to that is if there are other policy priorities or issues that are important to your organization or to you personally, certainly feel free to talk about that, talk about the things that you're passionate about. But obviously, we wanted to share with you what are some of the priorities that our network is focusing in on right now.
Bianca, do you have any updates on what's happening with Medicaid and Medicare from currently?
Oh, that's a great question. I do not. That is definitely a question I leave to our policy and advocacy team. I think I can share that there are some reports in media that the House is going to be doing their markup next week. So for budget reconciliation. So this will impact members in the House Energy and Commerce Committee and the Ways and Means Committee. So they are going to be pretty tied up next week. But it's still a good opportunity for us to talk to House representatives outside of those committees, to Senate representatives. They won't be impacted by that. Okay,
Thank
let's
you.
see. Yeah, of course. Um, Jan has a couple questions here. Okay. Should we screen share the leave behind one pagers during our Zoom? That's a great question. So I recommend if you're having a virtual meeting, to take the links of the one pagers down, you can copy and paste those or download them and include them in the calendar invite. So that way um, the person you're meeting with has them accessible. And then, yes, if you feel comfortable screen sharing during your virtual meeting, that's a great way to go about your meeting and do the presentation. But just make sure you feel comfortable screen sharing. And you can also ask them, do you prefer for me to screen share or would you like to follow along on your own in the materials I provided in advance? So that's how I would approach that. Just looking at some questions here. Yes, so we will be, for those who are there in person in DC, we will be there while markups are happening, if they're happening. So we're certainly keeping an eye out, and our advocacy team and our partners at Community Catalyst and Families USA are going to be, providing us guidance on the best way to approach those key members in those key committees, or what we might pivot and do with our asks if anything is needed. Any other questions I can answer for folks?
Yeah, it's Jan. I asked
Yes.
a question about as we schedule these meetings,
Mhm.
what if, the 14th is just not available? We're still going to
Oh.
schedule a meeting. I mean, how
Mhm.
long, as you're going to be gathering the results of these meetings, like how far in the future would it be
Sure.
feasible?
That's a good question. Yeah, certainly, it's going to be a very busy week, so it might be challenging to get a meeting next week. However, I would say like within the next month, over the next couple of weeks, put out the request and see what kind of availability they get back to you with. I think our issues are still important throughout these next couple of weeks still. Okay, anything else for folks?
Just one more, my usual
Sure.
question.
Yeah.
So I'm going to schedule these meetings. Um, I know there is registration for this virtual meeting as well as capital or the regular Hill Day registration. I'm still trying to get a feel for, haven't had any luck. Other people from Arizona are attending in Washington or going to be also making appointments from Arizona. I just feel like there should be some coordination.
Yes. Great question. I don't, off the top of my head, Jan, I don't believe there's any folks in Arizona attending in person, but I can send you a follow-up email to confirm. And then I would say, coordinate with the coalition there and the folks that you know there and see if they'd be interested in joining these meetings with you. Um, and I think that's a great way to go about the coordination piece. Okay. Well, thanks so much for joining, everyone. Like I said, we will share out these materials with you. Hopefully, you've had the chance to grab that link from the chat that Francesca posted, but we will also send out a reminder email next week to join us in the virtual day of action. So thanks for being here, everyone, and have a great rest of your afternoon. Bye.